Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 12 Pro Max and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see which specific phone you should go and pick up. Now, I do think there's a lot of overlap here, but there's also many differences. If you want to pick up either one of these phones, the links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell that both these phones are very different in sizes. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which came out back in 2020, has a fairly large 6.7-inch display on the front. Now, it's an OLED display, very similar to how the iPhone 14's display is, but I wouldn't argue that this one is a better display. It's just a bigger display when it comes down to it. So that might be something to keep in mind. You have a little bit of bezel around the whole entire design. You have the notch up top, but the bezel and everything, I mean, that's like such a stretch. It's not that bad at all. And I do think it's probably one of the bigger advantages. The reason I'm opening up these apps is because I just downloaded them. So with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, still looks good. You have a very good design, and I still think it holds up very, very well. Now, with the iPhone 14, it's a little bit of a smaller phone, but I want to kind of mention one thing. This one's 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, 60 hertz, just like the 12 Pro Max, but this is the $799 phone now. This was a $1,099 phone in 2020, so definitely keep that in mind here. So the 14, you're getting a smaller design. You're also getting, I guess, a slimmer notch. That's like kind of one way to put it. Still 60 hertz, still is a pretty good display. This display should get brighter than the iPhone 12 Pro Max's as well. So if you ever need a super bright display, this is definitely the one for you. And I would argue that this is probably the better panel when it comes down to both of them, which is very interesting. Now, on the sides of both these phones, you can kind of see that I would argue that, both flat sides, so there's nothing really crazy different there. But the 12 Pro Max, for having this kind of reflective material, looks and feels so premium. It is easily one of my favorite things about the 12 Pro Max, just the 12 Pro and series in general. It feels like a slab of gold with the gold model for sure. Now we have the volume buttons to bring your on-off switch. But if you look right here, the 12 Pro Max has a SIM card tray. The iPhone 14 does not have a SIM card tray, which is very sad. I wish that phone has it. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Now on the bottom, we have USB-C ports on the bottom of both these with speaker grills. And on the back, we have a very correct back on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. So take it as you will, but that is kind of very interesting there. We have a dual camera setup on the iPhone 14. We have a triple camera setup on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So we have a little bit of flip-flopping going on here too, which is really funny. We have a LiDAR sensor here as well. And we have these glass backs between both. Now with the iPhone 14, we do have the standard glass back. With the iPhone 12 Pro Max, we have this frosted glass back. So that is something that's really cool. I love the frosted glass back. It feels so much more premium than what I'm getting on my iPhone 14. So that has been something that I'm super in love with as well. So that might be one thing you want to go down, kind of going down in the direction for. So 12 Pro Max feels way more premium than the 14. But with the iPhone 14, you're getting dual eSIM support, which is also supported on the 12 Pro Max. You're getting the MagSafe capability on both, IP certification on both, but you're also getting some new features like the emergency SOS satellite mode, as well as crash detection on the iPhone 14, which is honestly very cool stuff. So when it comes down to both of these, you're probably going to be getting, this is the way I put it, more premium feeling phone on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but the iPhone 14 is probably the iPhone that is going to be giving you better display and just better features when it comes down to it. So, and that's kind of how both of these things compare in that standpoint. Now, in the software and longevity standpoint, this is also another very interesting thing. The iPhone 12 Pro Max has a year older chipset than the iPhone 14. So the 14, in my opinion, has the higher likelihood of basically outlasting the 12 Pro Max, which is quite obvious, but I don't think it's going to be by 2 years. There's 2 years difference between these two. I think it might be only by 1 year. If you remember, the iPhone 14 has the same chipset as the iPhone 13, which is only 1 year newer than this thing. So I'm not too sure what Apple's going to be doing in the future, but that is probably what I would predict. I would say the chipset inside of the iPhone 12 Pro Max is going to be lasting 1 year less than what the iPhone 14s are going for. The 14 Pro is a little bit of a different story, but with the 14, I think it's going to last as long as the 13, which is probably only going to be 1 year newer than this thing. So that kind of covers it up there as well. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 12 Pro Max has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and get into the speed comparison. Okay, there we go. Awkward angle, I do understand, but it's kind of the best I can do right now. So all the apps are cleared out in the background, as you guys can tell. So let's get into it. Phone calls, 3, 2, 1. About the same thing, 12 Pro Max here, 14 is here. Music, 3, 2, 1. Okay, iPhone 14, I think was the faster one there. Let's go and get into news, 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Let's go into the app stores, 3, 2, 1. Okay, definitely the iPhone 12 Pro Max was actually surprisingly faster there. They both have 60 hertz panels as well, so there's not really going to be a massive difference, I would say, from the smoothness factor, although both of them should theoretically be very, very smooth, at least in my opinion. Hopping out of both these, let's go into mail, 3, 2, 1. About the same thing, not that big of a difference. Camera, 3, 2, 1. And I don't think there was that big of a difference. Let's take a photo, 3, 2, 1. We did have live mode here. Let's go and open up that photo. I always mess it up on this one when I load up that photo. It's such a small angle. Photos, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing as well. Hopping out of this one. Let's go and get into some of these third-party apps. Let's get into Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. So I will say I downloaded it on the iPhone 12 Pro Max right now, but of course, and okay, so there is actually a lot of overlap. Sometimes they get stuck on the downloading content panel, but it seems like both these handled it fairly well. And the 12 Pro Max might have opened it up faster now. That could be because I just downloaded it. Who knows? Twitter, 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 Pro Max was faster there too. Instagram, 3, 2, 1. Same thing. Snapchat, 3, 2, 1. 12 Pro Max, I think, was faster. Snake First Blocks, 3, 2, 1. So this is going to be interesting because it does glitch up a lot on a lot of these older phones. So very much the same. Let's see if there's any glitches. I don't know if I was able to see any, but I'll let you guys tell over the camera if there were any. Thank you, 3, 2, 1. Of course, we get into that pop-up, but they were almost identically the same. Let's go get into Netflix, which I think we already did, 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 Pro Max was faster here as well. Facebook, 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 Pro Max is faster here too. Stack, 3, 2, 1. And just from all the apps I tested, I think I would argue that a majority of them open up faster on the iPhone 12 Pro Max than on the iPhone 14. So that was something that was very interesting to me. I was not expecting that. I was expecting the iPhone 14 to do much better, but it is what it is. I would probably argue that the iPhone 12 Pro Max is slightly faster in this example, but that maybe over time it'll get faster. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses, but I think the 12 Pro Max might have been faster there. Now in the camera department, we have a triple camera setup on the 12 Pro Max, dual camera setup on the iPhone 14, wide and ultra wide on the 14, a wide ultra wide telephoto lens with a LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is cool. They both have 4K 60 on the front and the back, which is really nice. And with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, I hate looking at my cracked back and naked skin on it, so we are going to look at the camera. And I do think when it comes down to this camera sensor, it is still a decent camera. I've already done several different camera comparisons between this one and all my other 13 Pros and all these other ones as well, and the 14s, and I found that the 12 series to the 13 series was actually a pretty big jump. I didn't notice it at the time, but from my camera comparisons for both models, it's actually very interesting. Now you get 12x zoom, which is nice, but you're also getting 0.5x zoom when you're zooming out of this thing. So that's also another really cool thing. So you have, I would say, a little bit more range on the iPhone 12 Pro Max than the iPhone 14. You still have time-lapse mode, slow mode, video mode, portrait mode, and panorama mode, which is nice. So it's really cool that we have those types of features on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. But the iPhone 14 definitely has more features built in with inside of it, if I'm being honest. You have a 0.5x zoom, but you only have 5x zoom, which is kind of a lot less than what we're getting on the 12 Pro Max. But we're still getting video mode. We're getting a new action mode, which is cool. We're getting cinematic mode, which is like portrait mode for video, which is super cool. And that actually gives you really good effects. I hope they improve it in the future for, if you're holding phones and stuff in your hand, it look better. You have portrait mode as well. So I would argue that you're getting the better camera overall with the features on the iPhone 14, but you are getting more features in some ways with the 12 Pro Max with its telephoto lens and the LiDAR sensor. So there's some very interesting overlap as well. And to kind of sum up this comparison, if I'm being honest, I could argue that the iPhone 14 is probably the better iPhone overall. I mean, you're getting better, I would say you're getting a better experience on the iPhone 14. It's newer, it's going to be giving you better battery life, I would argue in some ways. You're going to be getting long-lasting phone, camera features here and there. But I'm actually really surprised how well the iPhone 12 Pro Max held up today, and I think it did way better than I initially thought. I think it has still some, ways to improve. I wish the battery health didn't degrade and things like that. But I think the 12 Pro Max is still a pretty decent phone. I'm actually pretty surprised by it. This was probably the one area or the one phone I wasn't super happy about because the 11 Pro Max was kind of better and the 13 Pro Max was so much better. But this one, if you can get it for a good price, might be better than the iPhone 14 in that value. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, help me so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.